Hi, this is Chris from needlepointers.com. Recently, I showed you these towel toppers made with an embroidery machine. I've had some people request a pattern and tutorial to make a towel topper with a regular sewing machine. So I've come up with this free pattern and tutorial on how to make towel toppers like these. This is a wonderful gift idea or hostess gift idea for almost any holiday or season. The towels I have here are Christmas, fall, and patriotic themed, but you can make it for any holiday or theme. I've made Halloween, summer, spring, and Easter themed towels. These make wonderful Christmas gifts, and I have requests frequently to make more. These towels are nice for the kitchen, but can also be used in the bathroom. To make the towels, I search the stores or online for good deals on kitchen or powder bath towels. I find that Kohl's, Joann, Walmart will have multi-packs of towels on sale for an inexpensive price, especially if you have a 30% off Kohl's coupon. For each towel that you purchase, it makes 2 towel toppers. This is because the towels get cut in half and then sewn into the topper. Find some coordinating fabrics to match the towels and you have the perfect gift. For the toppers, you will need 2 fabrics. Even plain towels can be used, and then pick your theme using the topper fabric. For these toppers, one fabric is used for the main front section of the topper and a contrasting fabric for the back. The 2 contrast band pieces on the front and the back can be cut from each fabric or 2 cut from the same fabric. You can also have the front and the back use the same fabric and just the band be the contrast fabric. Sometimes I run out of fabric, so I have to be creative and use what I have on hand. For these 2 toppers, I've alternated the contrast band front and back, and I've put the different fabrics on the front and back. What I like about these towels is that I can use some of the fancy stitches on my sewing machine. The lines can be stitched with a variety of stitches your machine may have available. Here are some samples with some different stitching, and there are only 5 lines to stitch and they aren't very long, so it's a quick way to add some extra interest to these toppers. For the Christmas towels, I decided to use a special cam snap with the snowflake design. These engraved snaps can be found in the Cam Snap store. For the back snap, I used a plain white snap since this matched the fabric colors. The plain colored snaps work on these towels also. There are many different colors of snaps available, so you can purchase a multicolor pack and have lots of colors to choose from. The pattern is inspired by Embroidery Garden's machine embroidered towel toppers. Since I am not constrained by a hoop size, I was able to make the pattern a bit wider. I also changed the tab in the corners to be more rounded and have the contrast band on the front and back. Once you get started, these are quick to stitch up. Since each original towel is cut in half, cut out and make 2 at a time to save time. Keep watching this tutorial for a full step-by-step tutorial on making this towel topper. If you would like a photo tutorial of this project, visit the link in the description of this video. On that page, we will have a full written tutorial, the free downloadable pattern template, and links to supplies for this project, including the cam snaps and engraved cam snaps. If you prefer to have a printable tutorial, we have one available for a small fee from our Etsy shop. For your convenience, the printable template is also included with the Etsy tutorial. But remember, the whole tutorial and printable template is free on our website. Let's get started making these towels. What you will need to make 2 towels with toppers: the free downloadable pattern template, 1 kitchen or hand-sized bath towel. This will be cut in half to make 2 finished toppers. 2 fabrics, 1/3 yard of each or 2 fat quarters, cam snaps, Pellon fusible fleece, a sewing machine, scissors, thread, fabric marker or chalk pencil, ruler, and a rotary cutter. These instructions will make 2 towel toppers. Since the store purchase towel is cut in half, 2 toppers can be made at once. What you need to cut out is from the fabric, cut 2 of your main fabric and 2 of your back fabric using the pattern. From your Pellon fusible fleece or batting scraps, Cut 2 of the topper fabrics and 2 of the band fleece pattern. The fusible fleece or batting is only put on the front fabrics, so that's why we only need 2 to make 2 toppers. Select the fabrics to use on the front of each towel and the contrasting band fabric. The other fabrics will be the backs. Set the backs aside for now. Take your 2 front topper fabrics and layer them with the fleece wrong sides together. The fusible fleece will have like a little bumpy side, and that's the fusible. So I'm putting that face up and the wrong side of my topper against it. Take the 2 front band fabrics and layer them with the fleece, wrong sides together again. Fleece should align with the top edge, and you're going to have some extra fabric hanging over the edge here. If you're using fusible fleece, go to your iron and fuse the fleece to the fabric with the directions provided on the fusible fleece. Next, go to your iron and press up this bottom edge 1/2 inch like this. Here you can see I've pressed the extra fabric up on the one edge. Next, take one set of the topper and band front pieces and layer them together, right sides together, along the bottom edge of the band. I am aligning the 2 edges, the 2 raw edges. The edge you folded up is not being sewn right now. Pin these 2 pieces together. Also take your back piece and band back piece and layer those together with the right sides together along the bottom edge and pin them together. For this project, we're using a 1/2 inch seam allowance throughout, and so I'm going to take these to my sewing machine and sew them along this bottom edge with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. So here are the 2 backs and the 2 fronts sewn together with the 1/2 inch seam allowance and a straight stitch. Next, I'm going to go to the iron and press the seams open to reduce the bulk. Here are the seams pressed open. Stitching the lines across the topper is optional. The lines are stitched on the front topper only with the batting. To stitch the lines, use a chalk pencil or other fabric marking pencil to mark the lines on the front topper piece. The first line is 1 inch from the band. Then the other lines are 1.5 inches from the previous line. So I just like using my little chalk marker to mark the lines quickly on here and get ready so I know where to sew the lines. The lines are also marked on the template pattern so you can transfer them. So after I'm finished marking these lines, I'm going to go to my sewing machine and pick out a stitch that I want to use for these lines. This is a great way to use some of your fancy stitches that are probably built into your sewing machine. If you don't have fancy stitches or you don't prefer to just have straight lines, you can also just stitch some straight lines across, but I would suggest that you lengthen your stitch length just a bit so that it's a little different from your normal stitch. You can also use colored threads that will show up on your fabric so that you can see the stitches. I'm going to go to my sewing machine and stitch these with some nice stitches, and I'll be back. Here you can see the lines I stitched. You can see them better on the back, so I'll just flip them over. And you can see I used a circle stitch here and a diamond there. When you're stitching with your fancy stitches, I recommend using a piece of scrap fabric to just test the first few stitches so that you can check the length of the stitch and adjust it if you want to make it longer or shorter. I usually end up making my stitches longer than the default length of the stitch. The next step is to sew the front and the back pieces of the topper together. So layer the front and the back with right sides together for each topper and align the edges. And notice that on the back side you will have some extra. There should be a 1/2 inch hanging off the edge here. Alright, so I'm going to stitch around the topper like this, leaving this bottom edge open and making sure that the 2 pressed up edges here are flipped up. Use a 1/2 inch seam allowance when sewing, and don't forget to back tack at the beginning and the end. and I'll take out my pins as I go along. When you come to the corners, you may have to like lift and turn a few times to get around the corner. And the same for this inner corner. Take it a bit slow going around the top of the tab. Take a few stitches each and then turn, and a few more stitches and turn, and keep going around. Still at the 1/2 inch seam allowance. So as you can see, I have stitched all the way around and left this bottom open for turning and inserting into the towel. Next, I'm going to clip the curves. So on these curves, just you can give a few clips and a few clips on the inside curves. And then around the top edge, I recommend trimming it to about 1/4 inch around. Make sure you don't cut over your sewing lines. After the curves are clipped, turn the towel topper right side out. Use a turning stick, a pencil, chopstick, or something like that to get the whole thing turned and the corners pushed out. And then take it to your iron and iron it flat. Next, cut your towel in half down the middle. So then your 2 towels are ready to be put into the toppers. Some towels have a one direction pattern across the whole towel, and you can still use this to make 2 towel toppers. After you cut the towel in half, you'll have 1/2 that is upside down if you put the raw edge into the topper. So what I usually do is I will pick out with my seam ripper the hem of this towel, the one that's upside down, and then I will fold the other end, the raw edge, up like a 1/2 inch or so and a 1/2 inch twice, iron this, and then top stitch or edge stitch along the top fold to make a new hem. So then you'll have a new hem on your towel, and then this end will be picked out, and you open it up and iron it flat, and then this side gets stuck into the towel topper. So you would fold this one like we're going to fold the other ones. And that way you can still get 2 towels out of your towel that has a directional print on it. The towel can either be gathered or pleated and stuck into the towel topper. If the towel has a large pattern like this in the middle, the gathering sometimes works a little better for that. The pleats can be pleated towards the front or to the back of the towel. If you have a design on the front that you want to feature, then you can pleat towards the back of the towel, and so you can see the pleats are back here. Or if it's like an all over pattern like this one, the pleats towards the front of the towel look very nice. If you're going to gather the towel, run a gathering stitch along the top of the towel and then gather the towel to be the width of your topper. To pleat the towel, depending on your design, you can fold the pleats to the inside, like I said, or towards the front. You want the pleats to end up having the towel be the width of the towel topper. For the gathering stitch, if you're going to do it, I would make sure that you stitch well within the 1/2 inch seam allowance so that you won't have to pull the stitches out afterwards. And I also advise to use a thread color that matches. Gently pull the tails and gather the top of your towel. Be careful not to break the thread. So pull the gathering stitches until you get your towel the width of the towel topper. This next step came from my experience making a bunch of these towels that I didn't like how the back showed on the towels. For doing the embroidery garden towels, they just suggest they don't have this raw edge here, and it's all turned up, and you just slip it on to the top of the towel, and sew it. I found that a lot of times my back doesn't look very nice, and sometimes I even miss catching the back. So for this, so you have the back of the towel topper facing the back of the towel, and pin these two together along the top edge. Next, we're going to use a 1/2 inch seam allowance and sew the topper onto the towel. And don't forget to back tack. So there's my seam sewn, and now I just flip the towel up and flip the seam inside. I'm going to go over to the iron and iron this back flat and make sure it's all flat inside of there before I top stitch, do the last top stitching. So these are ready for the last stitching. Top stitch along this edge and then all the way around the band fabric. So hopefully you can see here that I top stitched around the whole edge of the band. That closes up this bottom edge. The last step is to add the cam snaps onto the towel topper. And on the pattern piece, you can see there's approximate 2 spots, which is where I usually put my cam snaps. For each towel, you need 2 pin type of cam snaps and then a socket and a stud. To install the cam snaps, usually I just estimate where I want to put the snap. I use the awl tool to poke a hole through the towel, put the pointed piece on the back of the towel, the stud on this side of the towel, put it into the cam snap tool and squeeze, and it squishes the little pin down and installs the snap. Then I usually fold this down, use the awl again to make a hole. Again, put the pointed section on the back of the towel and poke it through. Place the socket over top. With the cam snap tool, slide it on and then squeeze firmly, and it squishes the thing. Now, always, especially when you're giving these as gifts, test your cam snaps like 3 times, snapping and unsnapping, because once in a while you'll install it and maybe it's not squished quite enough or properly, and the snap, 1/2 of the snap might come apart. But that usually only happens in the first few uses. And if you've tried it like 3 times and it works, then usually that means it's installed correctly. So the towels are ready to be gifted or used. Now, for this towel, where I gathered it, I think if I did any more of these, I would always use the pleating method for this one because you can't read the but first when it's gathered. Some of them, if they don't have words at the top, but they have a big pattern, then the gathering method works better. I hope you enjoyed learning how to make these towel toppers. Head on over to our website to get the free pattern pieces for making this towel topper. Like and share our videos, and if you're not a subscriber, subscribe to our channel so you won't miss future videos. Visit our website, needlepointers.com, for lots of other sewing tutorials and free projects. While you're there, sign up for our free weekly newsletter so you won't miss new tutorials. Happy sewing!